Whoa! Hey everyone, how is it going? Thank you so much for being here and joining this broadcast tonight. We're going to talk about some very interesting topics. The title is Generational Curses in the State of Black America. I have a very unique and amazing guest that I can't even describe how excited I am. I can't wait to get into this interview. Hey, Jack. So please get comfortable, get yourself something to eat, get a glass of wine, smoke you something if you need to. And when we come back, we are going to have the best night of being informed and increasing our knowledge as best we can. So I really hope you're all ready, and we will be right back. All right, and we are back. Um, First and foremost, I want to welcome our guest to this channel. Um, Her name is Queen Smoke. Welcome, Queen Smoke.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, you want to know something? It is an honor to know you, and it's an honor to have you. So thank you so much for stopping by and dedicating this time to have this discussion with me.
No problem. I'm very excited. I look forward to it.
I know. I know everyone doesn't know how we know each other. So let's just say we're sisters from different misters. How's
Right,
that?
right. I like that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I want to go ahead and I'm welcoming everyone here. Thank you, Diana, Cool Gamer, You Knew, Jack the Voice. Please drop some purple hearts in the chat for Queen Smoke. She's our guest of honor tonight. And as she says, and as I say, and as I have already stated, to know her is an honor. So let's make sure that she feels welcomed here. But let's get into this interview. Can you please tell us about yourself and what the purpose of? Well, tell us about you. Tell us about your podcast and the purpose of it. Let's just start there.
Okay. A little bit about me. I just turned 33 in July.
Ow!
Um, you know, I've always been aware of what was going on in our community. Since a very young age, my parents were teen parents, and my father, he was always an avid reader. So he always had something about the Black Panthers laying around.
Mm-hmm.
Just really I won't say an activist, but very much informed, about the state of Black America. And so I just was interested in it. Grew up watching all Black films, kind of paying attention. I was a shy child, so I always was just watching a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
in that, coming from where I'm from, my Black family is huge on both sides. My mother's from Belize, my father, his family's from the South, and things like that. So seeing two perspectives, but the similarities that I seen was a lot of family secrets, a lot of trauma. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, starting Air the Fuck Out podcast, I felt like in this state, I've always been very aware. I've always loved the Black conversation. Went to college for, majored in African American studies. Wanted to know more. Always felt underrepresented in class growing up. You know, I never felt like it was anything for us aside from slavery and Martin Luther King and maybe learning about Harriet Tubman. So I always took it upon myself to get educated outside of school. Reading was like my favorite pastime and still is. So everything I can get my hands on, Huey Newton, you know, Assata Shakur, like all their stories and things like that. So the podcast, I felt like it was necessary because in our community, we love to laugh, you know, as Black people. We laugh at our pain. You know, Kevin Hart got that whole concept of laughing at our pain, but I think that we never get real about where the trauma comes from. I think we never have the conversation of the things that have shaped our life, you know, and not just not just personally, but also systematically. You know, we can't ignore the big elephant in the room of white supremacy, but the way we are now, you know, where that stems from, and in the Black family of holding so many secrets, I felt like Air It the Fuck Out was time to tell it all, you know.
Amen. I'm over here like, yes. What gave you the idea to name your podcast Air the Fuck Out?
Air it the fuck out. It came to me because, like, it's a saying in our community, like, what happens in this house stays in this house, you know? A lot of Black children have heard that pretty much, I would say, I want to say globally, maybe in different forms, but I feel like in the African diaspora of just being Black, that reputation sometimes means more to the family than trauma, you know? So what happens in this house stays in this house, meaning no matter what we're going through, domestic violence, abuse, you know, financial situations, even to get deeper, you know, molestation in a Black family, like whatever happens, it's nobody's business but ours. But when it's our business, it doesn't get addressed. So it's swept under the rug, you know? And that's a pathology that's been happening for generations. Like, we have so much, it seems like we have so much anger as a community, but it's so much, before you can get angry, it's hurt, you know? So it's a lot of just broken hearts in our community. And I wanted to air it the fuck out because when you air it out, I feel like it takes the pressure off. It alleviates a lot of pain, you know? Getting things off your chest, letting things off your heart, and just speaking your truth, that will help the healing in our community that we really need.
Absolutely. I noticed I'm gonna put your YouTube channel here because this is where they can actually click to find your podcast. It's on iTunes, right? Or what is it?
Yes, on Apple, Spotify,
Right.
Google, and Anchor as well.
Okay, so it's on Apple, Spotify, Google,
yes, and Anchor.
And Anchor.
Yes.
Okay, you all, it's called Air It the Fuck Out. I'm going to keep saying that because it's really the only time I'm going to cuss. It's a good reason, okay? It's a good reason. Now, so I'm going to put that in the chat too, but what I wanted to ask you is, I noticed that on a lot of your episodes, you actually bring in your real family to discuss these really, really deep topics. How has that been for you, inviting them on your platform, inviting them into your podcast to discuss things that are personal for you and your family?
When I talked about the concept of doing it, like, I've considered, a lot of people told me, like, start a podcast, you know, because pretty much on my social media, I'm very outspoken. I kind of say this stuff. Well, I feel like that comes from being so little, being very observant, never speaking, never saying anything, holding a lot of things in. So when I got to a certain age, probably around 25, I just started saying how I feel. Because, you know, you could say it's not what you say, it's how you say it. You know, I never say it rudely. I think I come off in love. You know, a lot of people don't receive it in love because, you know, I feel like when you feel like the finger is pointed at you, or when it's some things that ruffles your feathers, you get offended before you can receive the message, you know?
Absolutely.
And so for me, bringing in my family, it was an idea that I told them, like, I want to get real. And I feel like to be believable, people have to know that you went through it, you know? So I told my family, you know, would you guys be down? You know, for my mother, for my father, sisters, brother has been on there. Just asking them, like, would you be willing to be vulnerable about the things that we have went through as a family? About would you be willing, to discuss our skeletons? You know,
Right.
And my family, like we're always been really close. When I'm talking about family, I'm talking about my immediate family of my parents and my siblings. Like we've always been very close. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, they really trust, like, my judgment. They love what I'm trying to do. So my family, for one, like, I'm just very blessed and grateful to have the support that I have, because we're always on the same page. So it was really easy getting them in and just kind of debriefing about the things that that we were going to talk about, because a lot of the topics are very sensitive, but very
Yes.
necessary conversations. So just bringing in my family was my idea, because I wanted people to know that I'm a human, that I don't mind being vulnerable in order to heal my people.
Wow. I love that. I love that so much. And I was listening to I forgot the name of the episode, but the one that you interviewed both your brother and your dad, that was so deep. They were so candid. And the one thing I can say, I have not met your dad in person, but the one thing I could say from that interview or that podcast is that he really is in the position now where he can really promote that healing within your family. Whereas when you were younger, he really, really wasn't.
Yes, absolutely. My dad, like, he was 18 when I was born, and up
Mm-hmm.
until that point, my mother and my father, they both had lost their mothers. And then my dad's father was in and out of prison. My mom's father was kind of like, my grandmother had died, so he had another wife and kind of started his own family. So my parents, they were kind of in the ocean, on their own when they started having a family of their own. I just feel like they had a lot of love for each other. They wanted us to. I'm the oldest of 6 children, so they wanted us to have a better life as far as just relationship with parents. I feel
Yes,
like my mom,
yes.
it was really a balance in my household. My mother was very nurturing, very quiet, very sweet, very calm, just the epitome of feminine, the epitome of a woman, the epitome of a mother, just such a pleasant person. Her lessons were always with a lot of patience and just really showing her love for her children. My mom put us first, and we were her
Mm-hmm.
happiness. And she said the only thing that she ever really wanted to do was be a mother. And she really filled those shoes. Like, I hope I can be, as half as good as her. And for my dad, a
Oh.
very great person, very young, he was more the outgoing parent, very flashy, very much street smart,
Mm-hmm.
um, very intelligent. So I just had a balance, really
Yes.
into school, really wanting to be something in my life. But really, my dad never shielded me from any, like, life. I had a lot of families that were addicted. A lot of addiction runs through my family. Just a lot of things. And my dad never, he never. It was always a conversation that I could be open to. My parents always allowed me to speak how I felt to them. They never shunned me. They always encouraged me to use my voice, to ask questions, and they were always being honest about it.
Wow. That's amazing. Like, I didn't grow up with both of my parents in the home. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever I hear that, even if it's not perfect, to
Right.
have both parents is really a thing to behold. Because
Right.
you do, like I said, even though they may not be perfect, they may not make perfect decisions regarding their parenting. It's there is that balance that's needed. That
Right.
nurturing side that your mom provides, that closeness, that unconditional love. And then that side that your father brings, where he is a little bit rough around the edges, but he's so honest.
Right.
He wants you guys to, well, he wanted all of you all to really understand the plights that he faced and how
Mhm.
that impacted his life. And really his whole mission was to prevent you all as his children from going down the exact pipeline that he went down.
Right. Absolutely.
I think that's really phenomenal. And a blessing that you and your siblings have that closeness, that you and your parents have that closeness. Let's get into this generational curses topic.
Hmm.
What do you mean by that? What is meant by generational curses? Break that down for us, for those of us here or listening to the replay. What does that mean? And why is it so important for the Black community to understand this?
I think when I come off as saying a generational curse, it is something, it could be with behavior, it could be, substance abuse, or just something that is plaguing a family. And when I say generational curse, this is something that has a pathology to show up, generation after generation after generation. For example, we could just say like drug abuse.
Yes.
Um, the chances that, you may become addicted will be higher if it runs in your family. And we say runs in your family, it's a cycle, you know. And I feel like it becomes a generational curse because no one wants to be accountable. Of the Black family sometimes is not accountable, and we can coddle members because they are our family. We can coddle behaviors and enable out of love when it's really not out of love. Because I feel like when something is out of love, you're gonna be very direct. Not in a
Mhm.
mean way, but just direct. Because if you want somebody to do the best, everybody should have people around them that wants to bring the best out of them. And if we continue to ignore behaviors that are detrimental to our community, that's what a generational curse is. It continues to get bad. It stays very bad. Nobody wants to admit. You can't really fix something if you don't admit that it's broken or that it's a problem. So it's not really, our community is not problem or I guess solution based. We're more
Right.
so like coddling and enabling because that's my friend, or that's my mom, or that's my dad, that's my sister. We don't want to look ourselves in the mirror. Instead, we focus on things that don't matter. We spend too many times we spend too much idle time, especially social media. That's like the newest addiction for the Black community, and
Oh,
the
yes.
newest like gender wars and feuds and modern woman versus this kind of man. And it's just so much. So it's always the same powers that be that's on media, that produces media bias in the on the television, is the same people that keep us segregated online as well.
Hmm. I don't have any argument to that. I just want to add to it. It says that a generational curse describes the cumulative effect on a person of things that their ancestors did, that their ancestors believed, that their ancestors practiced in the past, and a consequence of our ancestors or our family members' actions, their beliefs, and even their transgressions being passed down from one person to the next.
Hmm.
I'm so intrigued with the word curse because it has such a connotation. Um, it's very, very a negative connotation to that word, right?
Right.
But when we're talking about the plagues, the things that plague the Black community, and things that are cycled down, passed down from generation to the next,
Hmm.
um, there's a difference between generational curses and then generational poor decision making.
Right. Right.
What are you what can you say are some of the main things between what are the main differences between those two concepts, generational curses versus generational poor decision making?
I think the generational curse is generational poor decision making. I think the only difference is your consciousness, your
Okay.
awareness. I feel
Got
like
it.
when
Okay.
you can, like, in my family, I always heard, like, on my father's side, I always heard this term, like, they're sick, everybody's mentally ill. I heard that literally from the time I was born. And my grandma always say, like, my great grandmother, excuse me, she's from Mississippi, and she would say,
Mhm.
like, this family's cursed, we got a curse. And as a little child, I just cringed at hearing that word. I didn't really understand it fully, but I knew that I wasn't cursed. I would always tell her that I'm not cursed. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not cursed. How can you be a woman of faith, and you speak this over your family? That's how I always felt. So I
Yeah.
feel like it's literally just the conscious mind. When you're intentional, when you're aware, and when you're conscious of, like, the state where, for first of all, our history, where we come from. That's why it's important to always know our history, know where we started. It wasn't in slavery. But just knowing that we have always been a great people. We have always been
Yep.
dynamic. It's just a lot of oppression, worldwide, globally, global oppression
Worldwide.
on Black people and Black spirits and Black bodies.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Um, Thank you for that because I know that. Hey, Kat Nanya. Hey, Jennifer. Those of you who just came in. Wow. Those of you who've just come in. Thank you so much for being here. I know one of the things that you talked about. Now, hopefully, this is not going off topic too much, but I heard you say that white male felons are more likely to get hired over a black man with a college degree.
Oh yes. Yes, that's when I was in college, so I wanted to do, like I said, my major, it was social science. So I had three disciplines: psychology, sociology, and
Mm-hmm.
African American studies. African
Mm-hmm.
American studies was my favorite because, like I said, I never had that education in school all 12 years in high school. I went to junior college before the university, but never really learning about um we study generational curses, pathology, alcoholism, substance abuse, just different topics and different things. So just really, wanting to I just wanted to always be educated, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You got to be two steps ahead in this community, when you talk about white supremacy, when you talk about, I feel like a lot of black people, we get nervous to have that conversation with one another. When we're at work, you don't want to really connect to the other black person. You don't want to feel like you're segregating yourself. But I
Yeah.
feel like it's okay to have those important spaces to be with your people. Those are the people that can understand you. Those are the people that know what you're going through without you having to explain, or without you looking crazy, or without you looking angry.
Mm-hmm.
Living in this community, living in this society, we have to always be aware. It's like it's mental too. It's a battle every day
Yeah.
to show up in the world, because it's already a lot of things going on in the black mind. The things we see on TV, it's like always a paralyzing fear to leave your front door. So I feel like having the space to be seen, be heard, be felt, and really be understood is everything for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Marva. I think when we're talking about things that are like when we talk about the contrast between generational curses versus generational wealth, how did we how did such a huge gap become created in the black community?
I feel like, for one, we have to take into account, like, the quickest way to wealth is through real estate. And we know that black people, in the starting in the 1960s, was redlined. For anyone who doesn't know what that means, it's just simply higher, given higher rates for the same. This house could cost the same as, a black person going for a loan, a white person going for a loan. Saying that back in those days, the house was 25,000. Um, the white family would pay the 25,000. The black family would probably pay 50,000. Just different systems
Mm,
set up to always hinder our success, hinder our growth. We get this. We always hear that black people are inferior, or like we are looked at as primitive. Not like people, or hypersexual. We're not ever looked at as humans. So I feel like, just for us being seen, it's a lot. Like, always
yeah.
being in a primitive state, it's a lot to live. So when we talk about wealth, we have to be fair and say that we already know we're behind 500 plus years. For the
Yes.
people that have made it out, the athletes, the people in entertainment, or just finance, the good jobs, people that have made it out. I feel like you have to work twice as hard to be equal, to be seen as equal. But we're never treated that fairly. When you have a special talent as a black person, that's when you're special. When everybody agrees that, oh, you're an amazing basketball player, or you're an amazing artist, your voice is beautiful. That's when you're seen. So everybody else is like trying to make a way. We're all trying to make a way. The gap was created. It's already been an uneven playing field since we stepped foot on American soil.
Yeah.
So I feel like, for the ones that do get it, or the ones that do get out this rat race and this climb out the hole of financial freedom in the black community, it just takes grit. You have to miss out on a lot of the fun. And I know that for a lot of us, myself included, sometimes the weekends are the only time you get to be free. But if you're not working, well, whatever dreams you may have, you'll be stuck forever, because the system is created for you to barely make it, to
Yeah.
barely maintain. So when everybody's having fun, or when, other people can do what they want to do, go on vacations and stuff, sometimes we have to chill on that. Sometimes we can't stunt when we don't have anything. And sometimes I feel like in the Black community, the goal is not financial freedom, it's just to like look like it's financial freedom. We want to have a look. We want to act like we want to have expensive vacations that we can't afford. We want to do things that we know is going to affect us later on, but just to live in the moment, I feel like we do that too much. And we already know. Everybody should know at this point. No Black person in this world should not know about white supremacy. No Black
Right.
person in this world should not know that, it's not an equal playing field for us.
Correct. Wow. Do you think that, I mean, this is probably a dumb question, but I'm asking it because I want to hear your side of it. When you say that we Black people don't have, we've never been on an equal playing field as our white counterparts, do you think that that whole idea of us having to work twice as hard, four times as hard to sustain even a fraction of wealth, do you think that in and of itself is one of the generational curses in this country and in our Black community that has held us back?
Absolutely, because I think poverty brings out the beast in people. When you can't feed your family, when your children are starving, when your bills are piling up, when it's just so many things that you feel, even if you do work, that you will never catch up on. Like I said, being from a family of 8, I feel like my parents always worked. They were never home. Like, we were kind of latchkey kids sometimes, because
Mm-hmm.
they had to do what they had to do. With 6 kids, you can't just they have to get fed. We had to get fed. We had to get clothes and things like that. It's no getting ahead. And me
Yeah.
being an adult now, I don't have any children yet, and I still feel sometimes like there's no getting ahead. If you
Yeah.
don't think out the box, you will stay in the box. But I also, in our defense, of course, when you're so stressed out, sometimes your creativity is shot. I know that a lot of us, like I said, is in a state of oppression, and we go through a lot of things, and we want to hide the fact that we're struggling. But like, we're 2 years into a pandemic, you know what I mean? I know that it has shifted the mentality of a lot of people, let alone
Yes.
our community.
A
So
lot.
just losing jobs, losing family, losing people, everything with Black Lives Matter, everything with the state of our race and all these, police brutality and things like that, it takes a toll on everybody in our community. But the toll it takes on the Black psyche, when you can Google, go on any platform and type in someone's murder and see it raw footage, and they
Yeah.
look like you, that creates like so much mental stress that I think we're not even aware of. We don't really pay attention to, because since we were little, like, we've been going through so many things. So trauma is just like another stripe on our belt. It's like another badge of honor. But in actuality, we're all suffering from PTSD.
Absolutely. And it runs deep. And that's the thing that I wanted to be able to emphasize on this platform because, you know, this concept is understood amongst Black people, more Black people than actually are able to talk about, right? The concept
Mm-hmm.
of generational trauma and how trauma lives so deep within our psyche, within our DNA. It runs all the way back to our ancestors that we can't even think to fathom to know. It
Right.
runs deep. So all of these generational cycles with curses, the trauma, the incest, the sexual assault, the domestic violence, the alcoholism, the addictions, all of these things, the mental illnesses,
Mm-hmm.
they run so deep in our blood. And to some extent, I really feel like Black people are so desensitized at this point because being conscious of what's going on, it creates panic, it creates that anxiety, and more fearfully, it creates that anger.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like, I feel like you hit it on the head. When we're desensitized, it makes you like, for me, I'm really like, when you talk about a woman who loves her people, I go on my way to speak to Black people all the time.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, the reception is like kind of, I don't want to say ice cold, but it's kind of like you said, desensitized. She just the person. Um, when you're shown so many, and I feel like, Black people have been, you have to be very touchy with your words sometimes, but when you talk about, like, how Hitler started with propaganda, saying that he wanted this master race or whatever, it's similar to what went on in our community. When the 6 o'clock news says that, this Black man robbed a store, and then the 8 o'clock news said that this Black man killed another, and then the
Yeah.
10 o'clock news, said that this Black man kidnapped this little girl. Like,
Yeah.
so many stories, so from the newspaper to, now social media, every platform. Back in our day, it's the television, it's the news. When you see that every, like Black people can never be the victim, we're always the suspect, even when we are the victim.
Correct.
It creates
Correct.
hopelessness in you sometimes.
It does.
When you see that you're looked at, or you deal with experiences. We all have been uncomfortable in places when there's too many people that don't look like us. We look for the connection of someone that does. But everybody is taught that if literally when we congregate too much, too many of us, people want to label it a gang. So not even having the fellowship to be able to identify with people that look like you, it creates a lot of brokenness within people. To always be the having to fight to be seen, having to fight for your safety, having to be calm when you're agitated. Like, it's just so many layers of living this life. But yet, and still, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. But it can, if you let the world get you down about being Black, you'll be down every day.
Mm-hmm. You ain't never lied. You ain't never lied. It's so much, Nisa. Ooh, Queen Smoke.
No
It's so.
problem. No problem.
I'm so sorry. It is so much to the point
Mm-hmm.
where even my heart aches for things that I don't understand.
Right.
You know, and to your point about people congregating, just last week I was at a work event and there was, I think at the time, I was the only Black woman that was at this event.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So three other Black women came. I didn't know them. I had never met them before seeing them that day. But automatically I was like, oh hey, you know how we get together and we like we're queens. When a queen recognizes another queen, we're gonna salute each other.
Right.
We're gonna speak to each other, acknowledge one another. So
Mm-hmm.
at that point there were four of us,
Mm-hmm.
but we all understood this code that
Right.
even though we're strangers, we're Black queens, we're greeting each other, but we all understood at the same time when to disperse.
Right.
So that
That's so true.
you know what I'm saying?
That
It's
is
like we
so true.
all understood at the same time. Like, okay, we greeted each other. We were able to be loud and not loud, like, but you know what I'm saying? How we greet
Be
each other,
us,
especially
yes, be
me.
us, fully in our grace. Absolutely.
Yes. But we all understood at the same time, like, okay, we've spent enough time. Now there's four of us Black women. The attention is on us. Now we gotta shift and we have to disperse.
Right. That's the truth.
And
That's
that's
the
so
truth.
sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's so sad, but it's like there is this underlying code of that. And where did that I know where the conditioning came from, but can you speak on that? What is your perspective on that again?
I feel like, personally, I'm the most comfortable with people that look like me. I
Okay.
say that because it's safety. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
safety. Um, I just I feel like you should be able, like, nobody, it's only when Black people celebrate, and when we're really comfortable, we're, which one thing I love about our generation is like celebrating Blackness, and it's so many more people that are not ashamed, and that, you know, really live up to what Blackness is and speak the truth. And creators and filmmakers, they want to shine lights on different stories and things like that. I feel like that should be celebrated, but it's a threat. It's not
Yeah.
division. The reason why Black division is so prominent in our community is because that keeping us fueled, keeping us angry, you know, senseless, and just conversations that don't matter and don't need to be spoken of are always the conversations in the forefront. The things that don't matter, the things that are going to keep us down, the things that are going to
Correct.
keep us at a state of anger, especially towards one another. um when we finally, it's the threat of Black unity and the threat of Black love that's the problem. When we congregate too
Yes.
much, when we kind of chatter amongst ourselves or have things for ourselves,
Yes.
aka Black Wall Street, we finally show the progress. We're capable of it. We're capable of it. When we're amazing beings. Civilization started with us. So when we already go back to what we know, the African proverb, is unity. That it takes a village for everything to raise a child. It takes a village. Like, so when we're that village, when we're strong, it's a threat. Look at the Black Panthers. They had a whole program, whole COINTELPRO, to
Yeah.
dismantle them, because the Black bodies, Black people that are not under the influence and just really using your knowledge and using your mind to further your rights, to further your equity in this life, not forget equality. We're talking about equity so we can have equal property, equal wealth. You know what I mean? That's a threat. When it's
Yeah.
Black men and women making Black babies and they're loving each other, that's a threat.
Correct.
Black families coming together, Black men being friends, being homeboys, being brothers, Black
Right.
women being sisters. That's the threat. It's not about
Right.
us running like chickens with our head cut off, because that's what's been happening for years. When we
Yeah.
literally start to think like the only way that we'll ever be taken seriously, we could march all day, we could pray all day, we could, riot, have signs, when we take us seriously, when we really stand united, when we tell them like, you're not going to talk to our women like that, you're not going to disrespect our men like that, that's when people take it seriously, because we're literally the only race who does that.
Yeah.
Always in a state of anger at one another, in a state like literally we feud so much, especially Black man versus Black woman. We feud all day, every day, from sun up to sundown, all on the keys.
Yes.
Feud every different video. Social media has been taken over by just the battle of the sexes, the battle of the Black sexes, and literally nobody else does that. But simply, we forgive white supremacy more than we forgive white supremacy before we forgive each other. You know what I mean? That's the one who
Yeah.
created this. That's the one who created all the distrust, the mistrust, the the gender wars. We have to be honest. It started on a plantation.
Correct. The division started the divisions in America
Mm-hmm.
exactly started there. And it started with pitting the males against the females, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
the light skins, African American, the light skinned Black people against the dark skinned Black people. Um, the power struggle, the power wars. Um, but it takes a conscious collective choice of all of us.
Right.
Tell me if you don't agree, because I don't want to just be spewing
No,
out things.
you preaching to the choir. I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree.
But seriously, like every one of us here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Myself, you, Jack, Marva, Wu Child. It takes a conscious collective choice to love Black love,
Right. Right.
to love Black people, to see, now this is generic, but to see a Black person in the grocery store, walk by a Black family and greet them and actively engage with them instead of looking them up and down and seeing the deficits
Right.
in them. It takes a conscious collective effort every single day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Why is it so hard
I
for
think
some
it's
of
so
us?
hard, because like I said, from sun up to sundown, you're getting messages that you're not that important, that somebody can feel threatened by your Black body. You don't have a weapon on you, but feel threatened enough to take your life and make that decision. People that are not even law enforcement, and they go to court and they get off, it solidifies, it, reiterates the fact that we don't matter.
Yeah,
So I feel like just having, just being aware that first, like I said, it goes back to knowing your history. I know everybody always hears like, know thyself, know your history. It's real trendy to be like conscious and woke now, in 2022. That's the trend. But to literally, when you really start to do your research and really start to see how bad we have been done, even just being brought to this land and just always feeling like we're lazy or we don't work enough, or you're getting these handouts, affirmative action, yada yada yada. But we, our ancestors built this whole country for free, for
Yeah,
free, and no
that's right.
reparations, no acknowledgement, just always feeling like we can't even say anything. Then you hear the conversation of, I didn't have slaves, or it's 2022, you got to get over it, or I'm poor too. I feel like a lot of people, not a lot of non-Black people, have to take into account the privilege. First of
Yeah,
all, from the shade of your skin is a privilege. The fact that you don't have to watch your steps. Every Black person, myself included, I don't have a criminal record, never got pulled over for a traffic ticket in my life, but still get nervous when I see law enforcement. It's like embedded, like just nervous, like I
Mhm.
don't know what they're gonna be on. Because every encounter that you
Oh
see,
yeah,
the encounters that I've had, I'm not gonna say they were like horrible, but it's always just a condescending like feeling. Like it's not even. It doesn't come from me. I know how to be very calm, very peaceful person. I don't, I'm very non-problematic, but it's like
yeah.
they want you to. It's like a silent, like you said. It's always a silent, unspoken thing. They want you to have a conflict. They want you to rile you up. Like it's something that Black people catch in every interaction that a lot of people think that we're crazy for. And the only people that can reassure you, the only people that can validate you is another Black person, because they instantly know. You got to say
Yeah.
a couple of keywords and we can know. And we all have the same experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think it's why it's really important to always like kind of have Black relationships outside of white relationships. I don't care if your partner's right, white or non-white, non-Black. Like when you have friends who are non-Black, a partner who are non-Black, and you are Black, you want to have people that are you. You want to have people that are you, that can see, that can understand, because it's something that we go through every day. That I don't care if you're even a brown person, another non-Black person that's a minority or person of color. I don't really like that phrase either, because it's nothing like the Black experience. I know a lot of people have
Yeah.
been through things. A lot of ethnicities and people of color, I guess, are they feel like oppressed. That they go through a lot. Not saying anybody's struggle is, everybody's valid in their struggle, but I feel like our struggle has been the worst, the longest, the heaviest,
Absolutely.
the most traumatizing struggle in the history of the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to talk about, I want to get into a little bit of our ancestors,
Mm-hmm.
because one of the, Marva actually brought up this point, and I want us to talk about this just for a few moments before we start talking about the state of Black America.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that Marva says, if I can find it, right here, she said, when Black people are, wait, that's not it. She said, I'm just going to reiterate because I can't find the exact comment. But she said that for a long time, she never really identified with being labeled as African American because
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't have any connection to her African ancestral line. I can relate to that because when I was in college, I always called myself African American or Black, but I tended to feel feel a way because I've always wanted to know where I've come from. I've always and this is just me being transparent, just as a Black American, I've always wanted to know, like, where is my actual tribe? Were my ancestors from Kenya? Were they from Ethiopia? I don't know. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
I'll ever know.
Right.
That's a part of my identity that I feel like it will always be missing
Right.
from my knowledge. It will always be something that I yearn to discover. Um, and so, what do you say to those of us who might have that thought? Maybe we don't have that connection to Africa as a continent, but we know that that's where our ancestors came from, right? They were
Yeah.
brought here to America against their will.
Mm-hmm. One of
What
my
do you?
friends, like one of
Yeah.
my best, she was from South Africa. We were
Hmm.
friends since we were 19. She passed away actually when we were 26 from a car accident. But we always had these. I remember the first time I started talking to her, I had told her, like, um, growing up, I always watched Feed the Children. Is it a lot of struggle out there? I was
Yeah.
like, is it a lot of, poverty out there? I wanted to know, She kind of
Right.
talked to me. She was like, you shouldn't believe everything America tells you about us. She said Africa is the richest continent on the planet,
Yep.
with all the resources. I feel like, you know, we all should know where we're from. I feel like that's another, when you know who you are, when you're conscious about, the power that you hold, and the strength that you come from, and you know your story, you know your history, that gives you pride, that gives you identity,
Absolutely.
that gives you
Yes.
motivation, that gives you, it's like unstoppable. And a lot of us, like you mentioned, myself included, we don't know exactly what parts of Africa we're from. We don't know our story. We don't know who we're related to. And
Correct.
so I feel like when you don't know who you are, you'll accept a title of anything. Anybody can call you anything, and you're gonna live up to that. So just, I feel like just getting in touch with our roots, our African roots, it takes us to do a little more digging, a little more work. There's free documentaries. There's, I don't know how I feel about the ancestry test, but I know that you can take those to see what part
I've
you're from.
never done the ancestry test because I'm just like, I watch Black Mirror and I don't just want to give
Right.
away my DNA willy willy.
You
Uh-uh.
know, absolutely. Like my mom, she was born and raised. Well, she was born in Belize. My
Yes.
grandfather, my maternal grandfather, his father was born and raised in South Africa. He moved to Jamaica, where he met my grandfather's mother, and then they moved
Hmm.
to Belize, and that's where they started their life. So I know from that side of my family with my dad. I don't know much, but I
Yeah.
feel like the disconnect comes from, once again, everybody always make related Africa to being poor. To the people being dirty, primitive, always, like, they want to show us in our, just a state that doesn't describe us. When it's a little percentage of people in our race that could be committing crimes or doing things that, doing the dirt, we see those stories amplified. So we think that everybody's like that. Every black person is dangerous, every black person is angry, and every black person is waiting to pop off.
Yeah.
Just have an identity where you know who you are. First of all, loving yourself, that enables you to love your brother. That enables you to humanize the people that look like you.
You better
They're not a
preach.
threat. So I feel like just being in touch and always knowing that segregation and separation amongst our race is an everyday thing for them. So like you said, we have to be intentional, we have to be conscious, we have to be aware of the fact that loving each other in
Mhm.
intimate partnerships, loving each other in friendship, loving each other in our
Yes.
community is a revolutionary act, because it's every day something
Yes.
telling us not to. Every day something telling us to kill one another. Every day something, telling us not to trust one another. Every day something telling black women, don't trust that woman, just
Yes.
to judge and keep putting ourselves apart. Keep, wanting to keep an arm's distance. Like, I don't want to be seen as black. I want to be seen for my degrees or my success. But being seen as black, if you're not seen as black, people are missing you. You know what I mean? Regardless of what you
Yes.
accomplish, regardless of who you are, if they don't see you as black, they don't know who you are. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, I do. Girl, you I'm over here like, yes, you better preach. I'm like on the edge of my seat, like, yes.
It's
Oh,
important to me, It's important. And I feel
yes.
like the most, for a lot of black people, I feel like sometimes the older, the more stuck in your ways. So I feel like it's just important for me in this state of my life. If you, like Frederick Douglass said, you can't repair broken adults or broken men, but you can heal the children. Just showing them that we have our stuff together. That we can guide, we can lead. Like, letting them know, because they are the future. And if they're equipped
Yeah.
with the right tools, then we can continue to climb out this, just the state that we've been in. But if they're equipped with the wrong things, the wrong influences, we're going to continue to perpetuate this for many more years to come, many more decades to come.
Man. This is one of my questions that I wanted to ask you and get your opinion on this because I feel like right now is the perfect time to ask this. In your opinion, Queen Smoke, how do we overcome being stagnant and not being able to progress in this country?
With a lot of black people, I feel like we have to get back to vulnerability, because when you're vulnerable, you open your heart up, you know,
Yeah.
not thinking about what somebody did to you 5 years ago, you know, not thinking about the friend that you had in high school that talked behind your back, like literally starting to connect with people who view you, like even if it's on social media, join groups of things that you're interested in, gardening groups for black people, gardening for black people, traveling for black
Mm.
people, starting
Yes.
to connect. And I feel like social media is so easy for a lot of black people to connect because it's not like a face-to-face thing. It starts slowly to build from that, you know, getting in touch with like-minded people. The trust, when vulnerability comes, that's when you're open to trust, you're open to perspectives, not being so closed off, not giving everybody the side eye, and not practicing the
Right.
crabs in a barrel. We all aware of that, you know.
Yeah.
When your friend has a business, or you know somebody's talking about their dreams, or somebody has an idea, or they have something that even if you might not be able to afford that, you know, a share. I know like a lot of people, we just don't want anybody to have more than us, you know. It's okay
Yeah.
if you're doing better but not better than me. Like we have to get out of that. Like you have to realize the sun shines on us all. So if you want something that another black person has, it could be yours. But be having a jealous spirit is not going to get it to come to your life quicker, you know. Really being
Absolutely.
supportive and really being happy and really clapping for people when it's going to be everybody's season at some point. And when
Yeah.
it's not yours, if your season is not for 10 years, if it's not for 20 years, can you show up as a black supporter for another black person without having any feeling of animosity or jealousy, you know? Or just
Hmm.
being there for each other. How we start to heal our community is to look at each other as family, you know? Your favorite family member. Think of
Yes.
your favorite cousin, or you know somebody that you're very close with. Humanize one another. Speak.
Yes.
You know, it's weird at first. Anything that you do that's different is gonna feel a little awkward or a little weird. Or you might, like I said, I say hi to every black person I see all the time. Hey Queen,
Yeah.
hey King, good morning, good evening. It don't fall on, like sometimes it's uncomfortable to them. They don't hear it often. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it brightens their day. Start standing taller. They feel good when you acknowledge them.
They
I
do.
see a woman like, oh, your hair looks so good, Queen. Oh, I didn't want to wear it like this. You know, it's beautiful. You
Yes.
start to connect so much when you just see your family member, you know, instead of
Yes.
like a stranger. When you see them as this could be my cousin or this is my cousin, see somebody as you would see yourself. So when you pour into yourself, when you have the best self esteem and you know the highest honor, you view yourself as a really good person, or you know you try to put good out there. That's how you'll start to see everybody else. When you're a shady person, or you don't trust, or you've been, you
Hmm.
know, you're not healing, so you know you had a lot of trauma come into your life, and you're not addressing it. Everybody's gonna be getting that side eye. Everybody's gonna be looking like a you can't trust, you know. So it's like
Yes.
really healing up the things. Don't bleed on people that didn't cut you. You know, in all actuality, we're not responsible for the things that we've been through, but we're responsible for healing it. We're responsible. We owe it to the ones that come after us to be the best that we can be in all aspects.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You just answered my last question on this side, which was how do we eliminate the barrier in our own community of implicit bias, black implicit bias against others. And you just like literally hit the nail on the head with it.
Hmm.
We have
Just
to go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
oh, excuse me. I was gonna say just see yourself in somebody else. You know,
Yeah.
give your brother and sister grace. The same way that you wouldn't cuss out that white woman or that white man because you nervous, you know, give them grace. I give black people a lot of grace. Like I want to tell you a quick story. You know, one time I went to a liquor store and
Hmm.
there was a young lady there. She had been drinking. She was driving and she almost hit my car. So I like kind of hunked, you know. And she got
Yeah.
out her car, blew up. Literally, I hooked my car so she wouldn't back into me. Never met her a day in my life. She got out her car, was drunk. She was like, "Oh, you want to fight?" Trying to open my car door. Like, I seen your car. I'm not gonna hit your car. Literally trying to fight.
Oh my
Now,
God.
normally, you know, let's fight, you know. But literally,
Hmm.
I try to be the person in real life, not just an online persona, not just somebody that talks a good. When I try to practice what I preach, I literally told her I was like, "Why are you yelling?" You know. I said, "Look around, like we're embarrassing ourselves. Two black women embarrassing ourselves. What are you screaming for?" This girl, by the time we were done, she was crying. I was like, "You're a queen. You shouldn't be acting like that." And she was like, "You called me a queen?" I'm like, "Yes, I did. You're a queen. You know, you're a beautiful woman. You shouldn't be acting like that." And she just broke down crying like, "Nobody ever called me a queen before. Like, nobody makes me feel like that. I'm so sorry," and left. I'm like, wow, you know, it felt like
Yeah.
a movie. But just understanding that. your brother and your sister, they may be dealing with a lot, you know.
Absolutely.
Um, we have pay disparities, you know, racial disparities, education inequality, food insecurity in our community. It's so much things that's going on. So when you see somebody and they may have an attitude or they may appear a little frustrated, realize that it's not just because they seen you. Like we are literally battling every day to show up for our families, to show up for ourselves. So just being considerate and
Yeah.
offering grace to somebody else, because one day we gonna need it. You know, you gonna need the grace one day
Yeah.
when you frazzle, when you stressed out. And we're not the enemy. You know, we're not the enemy. It's played out now. Like I feel like we should all be at a point in our life where there should be no more crime amongst each other, you know, or disrespect amongst each other, because we know what hands we're playing in. We know who's the powers that be. We know who's feeding us all these lies. So if you don't really connect with that at this point, you're really kind of a lost sheep, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like that's the state of Black America in a lot of aspects is people are so lost.
Mm-hmm.
Our brothers and sisters are some of them, not all of them, but some of
Right.
them are just they're so lost and they're a slave to ignorance.
Right.
And that that's what breaks my heart, especially when I see our young people falling
Mm-hmm.
falling in these traps that
Mm-hmm.
have been set for them. What is something that you would tell your daughter, your son, your young niece and your young nephew growing up in this state of America, as a Black person that we're living in? What would you tell them?
I would tell them, like, literally show up every day for you, you know, show up for your community. When you come from a situation where there's no heroes or no positive influences, become one. I feel like that was me growing up. I feel like my parents, they always told me just to be the leader. Like,
Yeah.
you, there's 7 billion people in this world and counting. There's only one you. Let that shine. You don't have to fall into the trap of wanting to be this kind of person, that kind of person. Nobody's better than you. When you know who you are, when you love yourself, can't nobody take that from you. Can't nobody tell you who you are if you already commanded that I'm this person, or
Right.
when you stand tall, when you make your own decisions, your life, like I said, it's gonna be hard, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible to have a good life. It's not. So many of us think about the financial part, aspect of life,
Yeah.
thinking that's success. But when you can have a peaceful night's sleep because you're not out doing anything illegal, you're not hurting anybody, you didn't, take anyone's life, or you didn't take anyone's, the things that they needed to survive. You're not damaging the community. When you can get a peaceful night's sleep, that's the best thing for you. Just pushing every day, contributing to the world, not taking from it. You want to be somebody that's a stand-up person. If you don't make the history books, that's okay. But when it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered? Like you want to always be remembered, because when you living in the streets, when you live a life fast, you're gonna be remembered for a little bit. But fast life, it's a lot of different players. That part of life is meant to spit you up and chew you out. So when you want to live fast and live dangerously, it's gonna end up to one or two things, in the ground or in a prison cell.
Correct.
Choosing to live, choosing life. A lot of our people are they're physically here but mentally gone. Meaning that subconsciously, the music you listen to, the food that you're eating, the people you're around, the situations that you're in, you're dead already. So it's like The Walking Dead. Choose life. Choose to be
That's
seen.
right.
Choose to be heard. Just choose life.
Ow! Sorry. You know when someone's giving a speech and just, or you know what I mean, you just get excited. I just feel like, yes,
Yes.
command the space that you walk in. That's everywhere.
Yes. Yes.
That's
Absolutely.
anywhere and everywhere. Be the light. Choose
You know,
you.
for the young kids I'm raising, I'm a part of raising like 6 amazing young men. I have 6 nephews, 2 nieces.
Yes.
The oldest, 2 are 14. The youngest is 5. But they are very much young Black gentlemen.
Yeah.
Opening doors, very nice. We teach them like self-regulation. Just to show up as a human being, show up as a proud, like, they're proud Black boys. They have the conversation about race already. My nephew, 9 years old, wanted to have a discussion about Emmett Till. He came to me. I was surprised. He said, I
Yeah.
want to know this story. I heard about it at school. They didn't really get into detail. Can we learn about it? He was in tears by the time he heard the whole thing. But just knowing that even with the most horrific stories, that is still something to celebrate. Every
Yes.
black body matters. Every black person is here for a reason. We all have a story. We all have a voice, and we all have the capacity and the ability to band together to make major changes in our world. Because waiting on anybody else to do it outside of us is gonna be waiting forever.
You ain't lied. You ain't lied. Girl, I am like, I just feel like there's so much more that we could talk about, but for the sake of time, I'm gonna wrap it up.
No problem.
The next, would you come back again?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I want to do like a part two or like an extension of this and talk further into um issues that, for example, like one of your videos was toxic black mothers.
Right. Right.
Dealing with incest and SA in the family. I think those are heavier issues that
Right.
need their own time and space.
Absolutely.
But I so appreciate you coming and spending this time with us. You've really blessed us, Queen Smoke. I really hope that you felt the love and you felt appreciated, and you are such a divine queen.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you for having me. I know sometimes, it's a lot of heavy issues, but I feel like, as we're very multifaceted. So, we do have the goofy parts to us. We have the survival skills and the laughing as a defense mechanism. But
Yeah,
sometimes it's essential to just break it down and to have those heart to hearts about hard things. Every
yeah,
conversation is not for play, every day is not for fun. Sometimes we have to break our hearts in order to, mend them again. And those conversations, these topics are absolutely necessary to begin to do that.
you're absolutely right. Just to reiterate that being vulnerable, and especially in different spaces, it really can be a conduit of the type of healing that we need
Hmm.
and enable us to, I guess, for lack of better word, just cheer each other on,
Right,
be our own support, um, as opposed to being jealous and conniving and dirty and
right.
underhanded. So I really love you so much, Queen Smoke.
I love you more. Thank you so much.
Oh, and I'm gonna put your I'm gonna put your stuff in the chat. But do
Okay.
you have any final words for those that might be listening on the replay who weren't here? Anything that is on your heart that you wanted to share but didn't get a chance to?
I just want to say, the effort that you put into blending in, take that time to stand out. We command attention wherever we go. That's why everybody always minds our business. Like,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to be you. Be loud. Like, let that laugh come from your belly. You know what I mean? Let that, when
Amen.
you dance, I don't care. Like, you live your life like it's for you. Stop worrying about the eyes on you. Stop worrying about how you're gonna look, or you know what I mean, what people are gonna think. Live authentically. Be you. We only get this life one time that I'm aware. You know what I mean? And we're here for a
Right.
good time, not a long time. Command those spaces because all eyes are always on you, whether for the good, whether for the bad. Give them something to talk about. Give people a show. Let somebody walk away when they meet you, when they're around you, when they're in your presence. Make a memory. Be memorable, and that, like, being a memorable black person is just being you. Let somebody say, I was around this person, and that laugh will always be in my mind, will always be in my heart, or the
Yeah.
way they spoke, those hugs. Give those hugs. Don't let go. Like, be close to your family. Have those necessary conversations. If it's something on your heart, it don't matter if you're the black sheep. You have to be the black sheep. You got to stand up for what's right. You got to live truthfully and live for real. Live
Yeah.
for you. And I just feel like we have to do that more. Be honest and be real. And don't, if you're hurting, don't brush it under the rug. Like, let people know. Ask for support. Nobody can help you. Nobody can read your mind. every day don't have to be a party, you know, every day don't have to be lit, every day don't have to be hiding from yourself. Stop hiding from yourself. Be real, you know.
That's
If you
good.
want love, be love. If you want happiness, be that, you know. Anything you want, whether failed relationships with a black man or black woman, if that's what you desire to have a black partner, you can get that. Don't let anyone tell you that your dreams aren't real. Don't let anyone tell you that love for another black person is not real. Don't let anyone keep you closed minded or keep you closed off or make you feel bad for wanting a family with a black person. Don't make anyone, you know, make you feel bad for trying to be in black relationships, for loving black people. Don't let anybody feel bad for those relationships. If you love your woman, if you love your man, you love your child, you love your community, make sure that you celebrate that. Because, you know, only when we celebrate it is it a problem. Everybody else can celebrate it whenever they want. But when we celebrate it, it's a problem. But give them something to talk about, you know? It's going to have to be a
Mhm.
problem. Don't shut down for nobody. Don't bow down to anyone. And walk in your truth, walk in your light. It's the reason that we're here. You know, it's not an easy ride, but it's the reason that we're here. And I would, like I said before, this is the body that I you know, that I'm happy to be born in this body,
Absolutely.
and I would never want anything different.
Absolutely. Ah, yes, indeed. I'm on. Even if it took me 30 years to love this body, I
Right,
love it.
right.
I love it. I love it now more than I ever have. And
Absolutely.
there's such an appreciation. Like when you love yourself, you increase your capacity to love others more intentionally, more genuinely, and more on purpose.
Very true. Yes. You took the words right out of my mouth.
That's why we're sisters from different misters.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I want you to know, Queen Smoke, you are welcome to come back anytime. I feel like um, people need to know about your podcast. People need to hear
Mhm.
your voice and everything, all the knowledge that you have to share. So you all can check out Queen Smoke on her Air It the Fuck Out podcast. She's on Apple, Spotify, Google, and Anchor. And one of these good old days, you're gonna just have to come back and tell us how to start a podcast.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
We
because
need those stories. We need that support, you know.
yes,
Um, just to add, you know, another thing that it was important for me to like I said, entertainment is fun. The, you know, the current events is fun. I just felt like I wanted to be raw. I wanted to be real.
yeah,
I want to take a step out of always entertaining, finding something to deviate. I want to get straight to the meat of things, you know? So that's
yeah,
why my podcast exists, because sometimes you just want it raw, sometimes you just want it real, and sometimes you just want to know that your feelings are valid, you're not alone. You know, my mom had these patterns and my father had these patterns, and somebody can validate that, you know. I went
yes,
through this in my family and they didn't validate my feelings. They told me to not mention it. You know, this person that, like you said, it's gonna take more episodes to get deeper into that, but that
yeah,
this podcast makes sure that you're seen for the trauma that you went through, period. Like pretty much, like you're seen, your trauma was valid, and the people that harmed you were wrong, you know. And that's what the podcast is about: exposing those sores, exposing those wounds, so that we can do open heart surgery. Because the black community, we can't fix it with a band-aid. We got to fix it with open heart surgery.
that's right. And we need the fullest extent of healing and recovery even after that.
Absolutely.
Ah, this has been so great, so refreshing. Now I'm gonna go ahead and have a glass of wine.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I have to watch the replay so I can see all the comments, but I just want to thank
Yes.
everyone too for, you know, listening in, chiming in with your comments and everything. It's much appreciated.
Yes, it sure is. So again, you all go check out Queen Smoke on her Air It the Fuck Out podcast. She's also got a channel on YouTube called Queen Smoke. I put the link in
Hmm.
the description. There will be more content posted. And thank God Queen Smoke will be back probably in a few weeks. And
Absolutely.
we'll get deeper into some of these things that we need to talk about.
Right.
So thank you again so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, much love. I always say this at the end of my videos, and then we're going to say bye together. Please remember, you all, to salute yourselves, practice abundant self care. Always, always be kind to yourselves and be kind to others. Smile at a stranger. You never know if you're entertaining one of God's angels. And with that, we are out. Y'all have a good weekend, and we'll see
Bye,
you soon.
everyone.
Bye.